Hello there. Welcome. This is Kim Peterson here from Cedar Fundraising, and this is my 3 things about video for this week. And I want to start off by, first of all, acknowledging that I said I was going to do this on Friday, but it is Thursday, and therefore it might be a little confusing. And I do apologize to anybody who was counting on this. My only excuse is that I'm traveling on Friday. Our family is away for the spring break, away from our home, and we are driving back. And so it's a little bit out of our regular schedule. And I forgot once I had scheduled everything. So some minor damage control, I guess. I plugged this into Thursday instead of Friday. So through the magic of it being up on my feed for a while, I thought this was okay. Anyways, with that apology in mind, we can dive in. So today I'm talking about finding new donors. So 3 things about finding new donors, and especially for small shop nonprofits. Now, when I talk about this, the term that sometimes comes to mind, the sort of technical fundraising term, is donor acquisition. And I don't love that term. It kind of sounds like you're shopping for donors on Amazon or something like that. So maybe finding new donors is a way to talk about it. Or I would even say helping donors find you, because really that's what it's about, right? Is finding or helping, being visible and having a message that's compelling so that people who are interested and want to help and want to learn more are attracted to and join up and eventually support or donate or volunteer with your organization. So helping new donors find you, finding new donors, or donor acquisition, this is what it's about today. So for my 3 things videos, I like to have 3 sort of subtitles. Just to go by here in terms of structure, we talk about why this subject is important. The second one is how small shops actually have an advantage over larger, more complex organizations. And the third is how to fit this particular thing into your daily schedule, because we know that especially with small shops, we're very busy, we have lots on the plate, and often sometimes things get on the back burner, unfortunately. But here I'm going to have some tips, hopefully, to bring it back to the front burner so that you can work it into your everyday schedule. All right, so number 1, we'll see if we can share our screen here. There we go. Thing 1, why is this important? And that might be a little obvious, but we'll talk about it anyway. Okay, so first of all, there is always going to be supporter churn, and we know this. First-time supporters, I think the stats are something like 40% will give again, and having people who give again is so important, because people who give again are more likely to keep on giving. And by having those ongoing supporters, you're building that pool of sustainable support. And by that I mean operational support, unrestricted funding from individuals, so that it's flexible, that you can pay your staff, you can pay your phone bill, all those things. So we need to make sure we're bringing in new donors to replace people who eventually move along for whatever reason. Also, if you're growing, if you're adding more things in terms of programming, you want to grow your impact in your community, you want to have a bigger impact, community building and donor growth needs to be a part of that plan. So if this is important, there needs to be a strategy around that, around finding new donors. And we need to know how new donors are already coming into the organization so we can be actively working on this all the time. And that's the big thing here. So acquiring is not just one step. It's, like I said, it's not just one button we can press and have people come into the organization. If you look at how a supporter typically comes into an organization and eventually makes it a gift, there's actually multiple stages involved here. So I'll show here, this is my donor journey framework. It's just something that I've come up with to help explain visually how a donor works. And there's lots of donor journey templates out there. This is one that I use. And you can see here I've got 5 different stages. And again, it's a framework. So it's sort of typically how a person will move from first becoming aware at that inspire stage to building a relationship to making a donation, and then that relationship building that follows in the nurture stage at the end. So you'll see that I've got sort of like that new supporter zone is those 4 stages at the very, very beginning. And so if you think of it that way, it's really misleading to consider donor acquisition as if it's just one singular activity. So I actually have this template available as a worksheet, and I'll be putting it in the comments if you want to have access to that. Also have some additional resources just if you wanted to go into some more detail about all these different steps, if you're interested in learning more about that. All right, so the second section here is how small shops actually have the advantage over larger, more complex organizations in terms of donor acquisition, finding new donors. So when I was learning about fundraising, and I think this might be true for many fundraisers out there, the information that you're typically given is sort of based in the context of a really big organization, and it's often, I found, like a university or a health foundation, like some place that has just dozens, if not hundreds, of people working in fundraising. And donor acquisition is presented as this activity where you would buy or rent a mailing list full of people who might typically want to give to an organization like your own. And then you would create this beautiful letter, you would send it out, and the expected success rate for these letters was, I think, I didn't look this up, but if memory serves, between 0.5 to 2%, like really, really low. And you expected to take a loss on this, which I think is just unrealistic for a lot of organizations. It makes sense if you've got a really big budget and you're looking over a long period of time and you see these donors coming in and you say, okay, I can work with this. And the lifetime value of these donors is going to be great. So it's worth the investment. But if you don't have that large budget to begin with, it just doesn't make sense to do it, and probably not a strategic move for a smaller organization. And other ways larger organizations do it is things like mass marketing campaigns. We see those all the time. They'll have those large peer-to-peer events, just bringing, thousands of people on into an organization and also getting new donors that way. They also do things like board introductions for major gifts, and fundraising events, which are 2 things that small organizations can definitely do. But we'll talk about the superpowers, the small shop superpowers, and how these small shops can actually do it best. So I mentioned before that one way to have an acquisition strategy is to know how donors are already coming into your organization and invest or work or activate that strategy so that it's happening all the time. So you have to know how people are finding out about your organization and why they're joining up, why they're supporting or volunteering or contributing. And the small shop advantage here is this doesn't have to be a complicated process. All it really is asking and listening. And it's something that we can do really, really well because we have such close contact with people in our community. We can call them up on the phone. We can email them. It's not difficult to do. All it is about intention and making sure that you're working that listening into the strategies that you're creating. Larger shops don't have that advantage. Like, they have way more people that they would need to connect. And so it's a lot more expensive and drawn out process. So you can definitely do this kind of like for free if you want to do it. You're going to be asking people, how did you find out about us? How did you decide to give? Other ways new supporters typically find out about an organization is the website. You must have a spot on website an online donation experience. And I am definitely not a website expert, but I know this much. And with a smaller organization, I think you have the opportunity to produce a simple and compelling website that's not complicated, that you're not going to need to go digging through pages and pages to find information about supporting an organization. You really have the opportunity to put that information right up front and center, so that people who are doing research about new organizations, about a cause, can find that information. And that is true for, I think, every single demographic out there, from anyone who is from kids up to, people who are 75, 85 years old. They're doing online research and they're looking at websites. So that's a huge opportunity for that small organization to really shine there. Another way people are coming on to your organization is through volunteer programs that convert people who are donating time to people who are donating money. And I think small nonprofits have a huge advantage here as well, because for smaller shops, you have an opportunity to give incredibly meaningful volunteer experiences to people who do want to help and have that time to give. And that is a way to bring people very close to your organization, give them a lot of ownership over the cause and the difference that they're making. And that, if you take those opportunities to ask, will result in people making financial donations as well. Outreach events is another way that you can bring on new supporters to an organization. And again, small shops have that advantage because the people who are there on the ground talking to people in the community are often the ones doing the work and connecting with the people that they're helping. And so you can have those one-to-one conversations, and really bring people into your world quickly, and talk about the mission and the work that you do with truth and authenticity, that might not be as easy for a larger organization who is relying possibly on volunteers or other people who are not as close to that on the ground work as your staff or your high level volunteers or even your executive director or senior staff are. All right, there are so many ideas for bringing new donors on, bringing new supporters on. And I'd be really curious to hear if there are other sort of lean budget ideas, especially around that digital experience. Like if anybody's had experiences with digital outreach that have resulted in bringing new donors on, and new supporters onto your organization, would love to hear about that in the comments. All right, so thing number 3. Make sure we're still on here. All right, fitting it into our busy schedule. Now, in a small shop, especially if mass marketing, mass mailouts, huge fundraising events are not part of your budget or strategy, the great thing is that finding those new donors is something that can be baked into a lot of what you're already doing. And I think going back to that donor journey, the key is going to be to really understand the path or journey that your supporters are taking, and then making sure that you're investing time and attention into those early stages. So we'll take a look at that again. Here, so we've got the inspire stage. So that's your marketing. The connect stage means just connecting with people through emails, through phone numbers, addresses, just making sure that you have contact information of people who are interested in your organization, in your cause, in your organization. So that's a systems issue here. So we're talking about your database and your email marketing platform are the two main systems involved in this stage. The build stage is that relationship building stage. And so really, when I talk to small nonprofits, I definitely would say encourage to have intentional relationship building activities scheduled in all the time, year round. And then I always say this, don't forget this part. Don't forget to ask, because people do. We get these amazing contacts and people who are interested and just keen to help out. And as small nonprofits, for whatever reason, we are hesitant to ask for a donation. Okay, so that would be it for today. And I thank you very much for joining me on my 3 things about video, which is usually on a Friday, but today is on a Thursday. Please comment if you have any ideas about donor acquisition, finding new donors, bringing new people into your organization in the comments. I will also include the link to that donor journey framework. It's a worksheet that I have available. And you do have to join my email list to get it, but I send out emails once every or every other week. So it's not a huge strain on your inbox. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next week.